Good morning. The hearing board of the South Coast Air Quality Management District is in session. Today is Thursday, February 13th, 2020. Time is just after 9:05 a.m., and we are meeting in the hearing board room in Diamond Bar. We have one matter on our calendar for today, and that is South Coast AQMD versus Rudolph Foods West, Inc., case number 6168-1 for an order for abatement. And who is representing the executive officer this morning?
Karen Manwaring on behalf of the executive officer.
Good morning, Ms. Manwaring. And who is representing Rudolph Foods this morning?
Adam Kushner, affiliated with Hogan Lovells.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kushner, can you spell your name for the record, please?
Adam, A-D-A-M, Kushner, K-U-S-H-N-E-R.
Thank you so much. Okay, we received a proposed stipulated findings and decision. It was stamped by the clerk's office and filed. However, I still will mark it just for clarity as exhibit number 1. And I'm going to ask anyone who wishes to be heard today to testify or give any kind of testimony today to please rise to be sworn in at this time. Please raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Ms. Manwaring, you may begin your opening.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Prusak, members of the board. We're here today to talk about fryers, specifically food fryers and the source testing of food fryers. Rudolph Foods West, Inc. produces pork rinds, and VOCs and PM emissions are a result of pork rind production. That is something that law school did not prepare me for. You have before you in Exhibit 1 what I consider to be a straightforward proposed abatement order. Every increment that is in the respondent's control has a deadline. The district has available a compliance officer that would offer testimony if the board wishes to hear it. The facility was recently inspected, and with the exception of the fryers that we're here to address, observed no additional violations. In addition, to my right here, I have Azar Dabiri, who's a permitting engineer, very familiar with this facility and with food production facilities generally. She'll be testifying as to the contents of the petition, including the reasonableness of the proposed order. Mr. Dabiri has one of the harder jobs in this district, as far as I'm concerned, because the district continues to advance our knowledge and understanding of food processes and emissions from food processes. The facility was subject to enforcement action in May of 2019, and later in 2019, they were able to successfully source test fryer number 3. Normally, a piece of equipment that's in compliance wouldn't be addressed in a petition, but I thought to have the full understanding that we included it here, because it was with the successful source test of fryer number 3 that the facility had enough information on how to proceed with fryers number 1 and 2. With that said, we were able to negotiate what I think is a very reasonable order with a tight timeline. You may notice some of the increments of progress have a little more time than you may see. That was specifically negotiated for based on our experience with the source testing industry. The facility asked for more time because they were having some trouble scheduling. In the petition, I made some mistakes on dates, which I'd like to draw your attention to. Exhibit 1 I can refer to. So on page 3 of Exhibit 1, I wrote that applications were submitted in 2016. That's a mistake. They weren't submitted until 2018, and I think that's important to understand the timeline here. The source test conditions were part of the permits to construct when they issued. The facility has made attempts to source test these fryers, but with the district's guidance and advice, they did not go forward with source testing because we had concerns about capture efficiency. We've been able to resolve most of those concerns and come to you with this order. And with that, I'm hopeful that you will grant the order in a substantially same version that it's presented to you in Exhibit 1. Thank you.
Can I clarify, you said the dates, so all the permit to construct issue date should be 2018?
If you would like me to do it now, I would like to orally modify Exhibit 1 with the correct dates.
Yes, why don't you do that now?
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Balapan. So on page 3, paragraph 5, the column titled Application Number, I'm going to revise the first two application numbers. Instead of the numbers that start with 58, please replace that first application number with 607651. So application 607651 was actually received at the district October 2nd, 2018. So that should replace the February 2016 date.
October what?
October 2nd, 2018.
Thank you.
And then the permit to construct issue date also needs to be revised on that first line. November 13th, 2018. And I'm going to make similar changes on the second line. The application number for the second line should be 607652. And then the dates are the same. The application date was received October 2nd, 2018. And the permit to construct issue date is November 13th, 2018. And I want to apologize for that mistake and thank my permitting engineer for correcting those dates in advance of.
And did you say in your opening that the other application and permit to construct dates for the fryer number 3 and the air pollution control device was also in 2018? Or no? Did I hear that wrong? Okay, I see. Heard that wrong. Okay. Those dates are correct.
And as long as we're making corrections to Exhibit 1, I noticed that I failed to include Dr. Bernstein's initials afterwards. So if you would like your name to read differently, I would ask that you instruct me so now.
Do you wish to change that, Dr. Bernstein, on the first line, first page, line 24? Okay.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, those permit application numbers also appear on the chart on page 2.
Okay, so they need to be changed.
So, Madam Clerk, on page 2, paragraph 4, the first application number is 607651. The second application number is 607652. I don't normally get through with a clean proposed findings. I don't usually have this many mistakes to start, so I apologize.
That's okay. Thank you for correcting them. Does that complete your opening? Yes. Okay, thank you. Mr. Kushner, would you wish to give an opening statement?
Thank you, Chairperson Pruzak, and good morning to the members of the board. As I mentioned, my name is Adam Kushner. I'm a partner at the law firm of Hogan & Lovells. I'm here today with Jason Millard, who is the Director of Engineering of Rudolph Foods. We're here today to answer any questions you might have about this matter. We largely concur with Ms. Manwaring's statements and characterizations. We've been working at arm's length, yet collaboratively with the district to ensure that the facility is and remains in permanent consistent compliance with the district rules. We can confirm that we've reached an agreement with the district on the issues set forth in the stipulated order of abatement and the settlement and the proposed findings. We have Mr. Millard here today to answer any questions that you might have. And so with that, I would thank you.
Thank you very much. So the initial question was whether the board needed any background in terms of the violations, et cetera. And let me just remind the board that we have before us a stipulated order for abatement, and a finding of violation isn't necessary. But with that said, does anyone wish to hear more on that, or can we proceed with hearing testimony with regard to what is proposed before us? Anyone?
Proceed.
Okay, thank you. You may present your witness. Thank you, Ms. Manwaring.
Thank you. The district would like to call Ms. Azar Dabiri, please. Ms. Dabiri, could you state and spell your name for the record, please?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Azar Dabiri, A-Z-A-R, last name D-A-B-I-R-I. B-I-R-I.
And what's your current position with the district?
I'm the supervisor for the chemical mechanical team.
And that team processes permit applications for food facilities?
Correct.
Right. Mr. Bari, how long have you been employed with the district?
I have been with the district for more than 19 years.
Right. Have you been to Rudolph's facility in Beaumont?
Yes,
And have you been to other facilities that also fry food products?
correct.
All right. Mr. Berry, I'd like to draw your attention to Exhibit 1, which is the proposed stipulated findings, decision, and order for a stipulated abatement order. Have you reviewed this document prior to today?
Yes,
With the corrections that I read into the record during my opening, would you agree that the contents are essentially are correct and accurate?
yes,
So they are correct and accurate, yes? Okay, thank you. Did you also review the increments of progress in the proposed order?
yes.
And in fact, did you help develop that schedule?
That's correct.
All right. In your opinion, is that a reasonable schedule to expect the facility to be able to construct the air pollution control equipment and source test?
Yes.
Could you briefly describe, during my opening, did you hear me mention that the district had concerns about capture efficiency?
Basically, during the field visit that I had it with some other staff from the facility, we observed there are some deficiencies in capture efficiencies, and we discussed internally within the staff and our source testing department, and also discussed and explained the situation for the facility. And after few further discussions, they agreed to improve the capture efficiency and complete the source test.
Mr. Barry, returning back to Exhibit 1, would you agree that fryer number 3 has been the subject of a source test that successfully demonstrated compliance?
Yes, they had a successful source test.
Right. And is it your understanding that the facility is then going to use that information and knowledge in order to proceed along a similar path for fryers number 1 and number 2?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness.
Mr. Kushner, do you have any questions for Ms. DeVere?
We have no questions for this witness.
And I'm sorry, will Ms. DeVere be the only witness?
We also have someone from the compliance team, if you wanted that testimony, to hear that there are no other violations but for the fryers being addressed. But yes, this is our affirmative testimony, unless there are other subjects that you'd like testimony on.
Okay. The application for the permit modification has already been submitted?
Yes, they have been submitted.
And was it submitted with expedited processing fees?
No.
No. Do you have any idea, and if you do not, that's fine, but if you do, it's helpful, about how long you think it might take to process the application?
There were some additional information requested by the permit process engineer, and I believe as soon as the information are provided, we will move forward to give priority to this project and issue the permit to construct.
And is that, how long has that request been out? Is that a recent request for more information?
It has been, I think, about 2-3 weeks when I looked at it, and the facility, as of last week, I believe they have provided most of the information.
Okay, and to your knowledge, has the facility been proactively providing information as requested?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Currently, the equipment, the fryers are using a control device, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and to your knowledge, the only issue is the capture efficiency? I know there's not been a source test, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are some concerns which might come during the source test. So that's what we recommended to install additional air pollution control for the system. So this new piece of air pollution control will help to both capture, other emissions, and also by improving the capture efficiency, we will be able to comply with the requirements of the permit conditions.
So in your judgment, if there was a source test, it would not likely comply or pass that source test to the correct, oh, okay.
I just,
I'm just trying to
I don't want to
understand.
object, but I don't want her to engage in a hypothetical.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand if this is going to go on and they're going to be using this control device for, we don't have a time on this. Everything is keyed off of when the permit is issued, thank you. But just adding up all the time frames in here, we're all the way in November. So, and then we're going to have to add time to that. So I just want to have some idea of if you have any idea of how well it's being controlled. I mean, I understand you have issues, there's issues with capture, and it hasn't been source tested. But given the type of equipment or control equipment that is used, its age, what it's being used for, do you have any idea that there is some good control going on?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry I had to go roundabout, but that's really what I was mostly looking for. And how long do you, okay, just two more quick questions. You said as soon as the information is provided that has been requested, the permitting will be given priority. Does that mean it will take another couple weeks, a month? We just need some idea so we can put a time frame on the order.
We are expecting to complete it within 1 month.
Okay. And then how long approximately, if does a source test protocol take to go through permitting, or not permitting, but approval?
Well, based on this order, they are going to request expedited review. So expedited review will help a lot. And again, it depends of the workload on the source testing. I cannot speak for them right now. As you know, all departments are busy, but they will give, again, higher priority when it's expedited. So
On average, does it take about a month on it?
we can say a month.
That's a reasonable time frame to put on it? Okay. Thank you so much. Board members, additional questions? Mr. Balagopalan?
Mr. Berry, you mentioned you out of the facility.
Yes.
And are they, and if you know do they dedicate certain fryers to certain products, or how do they handle are the pork rinds done in fry number 3, or are they used in different?
They use both pork rind and potato.
On all 3 lines?
Yes.
I noticed that fry number 3, the control system had a HEPA and activated carbon filter.
Yes.
And so did that fryer have good collection efficiency when you were there?
Yes.
So it's 1 and 2 that didn't?
Well, actually, when we were there, just to be specific, we observed some deficiencies, and then we discussed with our source testing engineers, and they worked with the source testing company representative that they were present at that time, and we followed up. Our source testing staff went and worked together with the company and their staff to make sure they have proper capture efficiency. And we were present during the source testing of the fryer number 3.
Do you know what they did to improve the collection efficiency?
From the details, I can just generally, I don't have all the details, but they covered some exposed area, and they kinds of try to patch some open areas.
Okay. So So they're modifying fry number 1 and fry number 2,
Yes.
and they submitted the application. So what modifications are making to that? Are they making to those 2 fryers?
And basically, they are adding an additional air pollution control to the conveyor belts to control some degassing emissions from the products. And this way, we are ensuring that all the emissions are captured properly. Also, on the fryer number 1 and 2, as we explained earlier, there were minor issues about capture efficiency, so our source testing staff are working with the facility to improve those. So as a result, they have submitted applications to modify the equipment to address these additional features.
So the new control system that they're adding, do you know what kind, what is it?
It's the same as they have it on the fryer number 3, is a combination of absolent system and carbon absorber, which first is 2-stage system. They capture the PMs and, first stage filter for the larger size PM, and then they have second stage HEPA filter for capturing other PM, and then there is carbon absorber to capture the VOCs.
So that one control system will vent the two fryers?
Yes, yes. Just that new air pollution control will be venting just the conveyor belts.
Of the 2 fryers,
Correct.
with the HEPA and filters and so.
Carbon filter.
Now, so as far as other, and their test, the requirements are test for VOC
And
with the
PM.
source PM. What about NOx? Are they subject to NOx requirements?
Yes, well, this NOx test, they have complied with the NOx requirements for
They've
the
done for
burners.
all 3?
Yes.
And they've
Yes, they
met the
fulfill that.
requirements?
Yes,
So it's the VOC and PM,
correct.
and those limits are based on what requirements?
And the permit conditions.
Okay. And they, for fryer number 3, they met that requirement? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, board members? Dr. Bernstein.
Thank you. Madam Chair, good morning, Mr. Beery. I just want to clarify something in my own mind. So on November 20th of 2019, Fryer 3 passed the source testing and served as a model for what to then implement between Fryer number 1 and number 2.
Correct.
Okay, where are we on implementing those air pollution controls on Fryer number 1 and number 2? Has that taken place?
Well, the facility submitted applications to install those, the new air pollution control
Okay.
for the fryer number 1 and 2. And as I explained earlier, as soon as we have all the additional information, we are able to process the applications for that. And after issuing permit to construct, the next step would be installation of the equipment and conducting the source test.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Verdugo-Peralta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm trying to understand how the capture of the gases that you were describing on the conveyor belt is done. Is it within, like, it closed?
It's a canopy. Basically, a canopy will be installed on top of the conveyor belts, and it will be ducted to the additional air pollution control that I explained, HEPA filter unit and carbon absorbers.
Thank you.
Senator.
We changed the application number on Exhibit 1, 607651, 607652, for a burner, for number 1 and number 2 fryer.
Correct.
On page 4, item 11, we have different application numbers. What's this? Why is that? I don't know. Please explain.
Okay, on page 4, on number 11, okay. And that's those applications that the facility submitted to modify the existing ones to be vented to new air pollution control.
So those application numbers are different from the one on page 2.
Well, the page 2.
As corrected.
Yeah, well, the page number 2 also.
As corrected.
Yes, corrected is 607651. So as an example, this facility submitted the application 617896 on page number 4 to modify fryer number 1, which currently has 607651, to be vented to the new air pollution control.
So that's a new number, new application number.
Correct. That's the one that I was explaining, that we need additional information, and we are almost completing those.
So in the finding of facts, just to make the record straight, you put the corrected numbers on page 2, and then for new modification, the application number changed.
Yeah, because when the new modification, any new modification comes with the new application number.
All right, thank you so much.
Any other questions? Mr. Balagopalan?
Mr. Berry, so when there are conditions on this order, so when the permit to construct is issued, will the similar condition be put on the permit to construct, reflecting when they should be doing the test? And because now, so will these conditions be mirrored in the permit to construct, to your knowledge?
For fryer number 1 and 2?
1 and 2, and the new air pollution control system?
Well, basically, we will evaluate it. The engineer needs to evaluate and look at all the circumstances, and as they are merit, yes, it would be.
No, my question is, will there be a conflict, is my, because normally when a permit is issued for a control system, there are dates and when they should test and when they should, so would it'll be in sync with what's in the order is my question.
Yes, of course, yeah. We will update it accordingly based on the new permit, application.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. DeBeery? Thank you, Ms. DeBeery. And that's the only witness you are going to present, is that correct, Ms.
Yes.
Myrwine? Okay. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Kushner, would you like to present a witness?
Thank you, Chairperson Prusek. Yes, we're going to present Mr. Millard. And what I'd like to do is use this opportunity to perhaps clarify some of the answers to the questions that the board asked.
Thank you. And if you could introduce Mr. Millard, is that by having him state and spell his name, give his title, and just indicate that he took the oath today.
I'm happy to do that and was just going to do that.
Sorry to jump the gun there.
Mr. Millard, can you spell and state your name for the record?
Jason Millard, Jason, last name M as in Mary, Illard. However, I go by Jake, Jake.
And Mr. Millard, can you identify what your position is with Rudolph Foods?
The Director of Engineering.
And how long have you been employed by Rudolph Foods?
2 years, 5 months.
And can you describe for the board Rudolph Foods' line of business?
So in the Beaumont facility, we take pork pellets and pop them into pork rinds and other assorted pork products, and then we also do some co-packing for other brands such as Frito, where we make chips, salted snacks basically for them.
You heard some questions that were being posed by the board in connection with the Mr. Beery's testimony.
Yes.
I'm hoping that what you could do is provide some more information to the board about the current operations of fryers number 1 and 2, in particular their usage.
So currently Fryer 1 and 2, they run a couple different pork products, mainly pork rinds is our primary product. And then they also run on Fryer 2, will occasionally run a Sabratone, which is a wheat pellet. Currently, we don't, we run the potato product only on fryer 3 because of the dwell time issue. So that's basically what we run, and the 2 fryers are pork rinds for the majority of the product.
And can you describe the inherent pollution control technologies that exist currently with respect to or on fryers numbers 1 and number 2?
Yes, so fryer 1 and 2 are twin fryers. They're made by Heat and Control. They were manufactured at the same time to the same specifications. So when I speak about them, when I speak about one, it's the same for both of them. So what happens for that inherent pollution control is there's a hood above the fryer. Any gas that is produced above the fryer is called the steam exhaust. This steam exhaust is then ducted back over to the heat exchanger that is used to heat the oil. So we're recapturing that heat to help us reheat the oil. When we recapture that heat and it goes through the heat exchanger, it burns off all the gas, all the VOCs, everything that's in that gas, and then that is then discharged to the atmosphere.
And Mr. Millard, are you planning improvements with respect to fryers numbers 1 and number 2 as regards air pollution control?
Yes, sir, we are. So the plan currently is to take the exact same air pollution control unit that had tested for fryer 3. We're going to we've created custom hoods, or in the process of creating custom hoods on jack stands so that we can get them as close as possible to the discharge conveyors. We'll route that ductwork back to the same air pollution control unit that is on fryer 3. And that will filter out the gases from the emissions that the district observed on the discharge conveyors coming out of the fryer.
Assuming that you had received a permit to construct from the department, when would you anticipate that you would have that pollution control technology installed?
So because we take this matter very seriously, and since my involvement after the NOV in May, which is when I became aware of this, I've flown out here many times and we've put a lot of effort towards this. We went out on a limb and actually ordered the air pollution control equipment once it was approved on fryer 3. We did that under good faith, but because it's manufactured in Europe and has to, be manufactured and then brought over here, we tried to cut down the lead time and ordered it in November. We believe that we can have this, it's supposed to land here in the States and be installed in early April. And I have tentatively, because the current lead time for source testing is 60 to 75 days, I've gone ahead and locked us into a source test date in May.
Thank you, Mr. Millard. No further questions.
Ms. Manwaring, questions?
The district has no questions for Mr. Millard. We defer to the board.
Mr. Balagopalan?
Mr. Millard, when did you say the new control law is coming?
It's supposed to be at the facility. The last word I had was April 6th.
April 6th.
But it's coming from Europe, so I kind of like to give a little wiggle room.
Right. And then how long do you anticipate it'll take to install?
So the goal is to install the ductwork in the hoods prior to the unit arriving on site. Electrical will be ran prior to the unit being on site. Basically, the unit will be offloaded in the back of the plant. We'll take it, we'll wheel it in, rig it in place, and tie it in within a day or two. So we'll have all the pre-work done ahead of time.
Okay. And then you have scheduled the test date in May. Do you have a specific date in May when it's scheduled?
May 13th at this point in time.
Yeah, coming back to the fryer, and I may have missed it. So fryer number 3, is it dedicated to a certain product or?
It runs, so fryer 1 and 2, if I can
Sure.
kind of give a little background on the facility, just a little bit, I think it might help. Fryer 1 and 2 are much larger fryers. They're about 2,000 pounds an hour. Fryer 3 is a very, very small fryer that will, it runs about 700 pounds, 500 to 700 pounds. So fryer 3 kind of picks up any smaller SKU volumes, or it does the potato volume, or the shrimp chips.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking is I noticed that the control on fryer 3 had more controls on. You had the HEP and the carbon absorber. So was there a reason why that had, the other two were integrated, the thermal oxidizer?
Yeah, so fryer 3 is a direct fire fryer. the fryer actually runs in tubes underneath the oil chamber, where fryer 1 and 2, I said fryer 3 when I said that, right?
Yeah,
Fryer 3.
fryer three, yeah.
Fryer 1 and 2 are heat exchanger fryers where the oil is actually heated through a heat exchanger off of the fryer and then
circulated back.
recirculated in.
And so you expect that with the adding the capture on the conveyor area, is that basically? And then it going to a new control system which will have the miseliminated HEPA and carbon? Is that the plan, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, this air pollution control system also, was it from Europe or was it heat control?
The one for fryer 3 currently?
Yeah.
Europe. It's the exact same unit.
same.
We're just basically cloning what we have in fryer 3 and attaching it to fryer 1 and 2.
I see. Okay.
And so what we're capturing on fryer 1 and 2 with the air pollution control unit is just the discharge exhaust. We're confident in the fryer passing for the steam exhaust because Heat and Control has other of those fryers in Southern California that have passed. So as far as the steam exhaust, we're confident it'll pass.
And you're not removing anything on fryer 1 and 2, the miseliminated and the, no?
Everything stays the same, sir.
And it says you fry at high temperature, so what's the temperature you normally fry at and what's the smoke point?
Temperature fried is usually about 395 degrees Fahrenheit. Smoke point is about 420.
And you have controls to make sure that it.
Yes, sir. There are integrated shutdowns on the fryers where if it gets above about 405, it just shuts her down.
And could you give us some explanation why the source test was not conducted as per the permit to construct requirements that were issued in 2018? For fryer 1 and 2 specifically.
What I can tell you is that I was unaware that it wasn't conducted. There were some management disruptions at the company, and that's why I was brought in. My level never existed. They brought me in, the previous corporate engineering manager retired, and that information was not shared. Once I became aware of the issue after the NOV, we jumped right on it and put every effort we had towards it.
So, but then you decided not to test it until you modified it, is that?
We had plans to test it until we invited the district in so they could understand our process a little bit better, because over the phone calls, we felt that they didn't really, to me, it's always, I'm not from Missouri, but I'm a big show me guy. So I like to touch and feel and taste things. So we invited the district in to kind of view the facility, see how we were running. When they came in, they requested that we also capture the discharge conveyor. That was different, so that's why we couldn't test, because we didn't have that ability at that time.
Okay. So now you'll be testing 3 stacks, basically, fryer 1, stack 2, and the new control.
Yes, sir.
Are there any, it's a commercial area where you're located?
Yes, sir. It's industrial, yes.
Industrial, okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So you believe you're going to have all the equipment you need on site by April?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then how long would it take to install?
We hope to have it installed within that week, because we're going to install all the ductwork and everything ahead of time.
Do you know why in the order 5 months was provided from the issuance of the permit? Is there any possibilities that it would go that long?
When things are shipped overseas, clearing customs and everything takes time. I don't believe it will, but because it's not directly in my control, I'm not making it, I can't go visit them and bring it back with me. I don't feel real comfortable committing to, you know what I mean? Because if it gets shifted 3, 4, or 5 weeks, getting through customs or getting delayed or getting delay in shipment coming over here, I'm not that's not under my control.
Okay.
I don't believe it
5 months
will.
seems a lot longer than April, I'm just,
And so we went ahead and ordered that before we got the approval to construct. That's a big leap on our part.
okay.
So we're doing our best to cut that time down, and we've gone out on a limb to order that and to procure that equipment. So we're doing our best to get that less than 5 months.
And there's even a possibility, would you say, that perhaps you get it and after permitting, it's not quite what you need? Is that a possibility, or?
We do not believe so.
Okay. The other question I have, you have a May 13th preliminary source test date. And in the order, you need to submit a source test protocol. When do you plan to do that?
We'll submit the source test protocol. I believe it says we submit that after the equipment has been installed. I think we have 10 days is what it said.
It does say that. However, I asked Ms. DeBeery about how long on average it takes to get approval of your source test protocol, and she doesn't know exactly, but on average takes about a month.
We can try to beat that. We can install it. Usually you have the equipment installed before you submit the source test protocol. The source tester is familiar with the plan. So I can contact him and try to get that routing ahead of time, if that works for the district.
Okay, wait, can you explain that again? Because I'm trying, okay, so you need a month for approval. After it's installed, you're saying you have 10 days to submit the source test protocol, and you feel you'll have it approved and you can do the source test
No, I'm
by
saying
May
we-
13th?
I'm sorry. I'm saying we could submit the protocol prior to installation,
Okay,
giving everyone's understanding of
gotcha,
the plan.
okay. Or you'll have to do that. That's why I'm asking, I want to draw this to your attention, because you've got all this time allowable in the order that's been proposed and presented to the board, but you've given yourself a very tight time frame. So,
Thank you, I appreciate that.
okay. Okay, those are my questions. Anyone else have any questions? Senator?
These dates gotta be listed in the time you think that you can meet them in the order. And when I see that the permit to construct, when will you be getting that? Or do you have it already?
We currently do not have it, as Ms. DeBari was speaking about, it's in process.
Well, there's certain things follow after the commit to construct. You have specific dates specified, and that can become a variable. So you just can't lock on any date at this particular time. Then you also stated that you expect a source test in May this year.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's after the equipment is in place.
Yes, sir.
And you're saying you don't know when the equipment will arrive from Europe.
It is scheduled to arrive in April, early April, so we're going under that assumption for that source test. Because of the delays in the lead time requiring to schedule a source test, they're 60 to 75 days out. We've tried to lock in that date.
Expect to arrive in April. And yet, in the first order, it says, A, respondent shall within 5 months of issuance of the permit to construct. So they got a lot of conflicting variables. And you got to lock these dates in. It doesn't seem that you're able to do so.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Well, if you got 5 months of issuing of the permit to construct, and you have to install the air pollution control system, and the system may not have arrived, and if it has not arrived, you could not install, and you have the permit, and then you locked in.
So as far as the source testing date, if there is a delay in the shipment or the receiving of the equipment from Europe, we will push that date back. We've just tried to lock that date in because of the long lead or the lag it takes to get the source tester because they're so busy.
So you think these dates are okay, you have enough lead time?
I believe
You have
so.
enough time, if it should slip, the dates that you expect may not be met, but you have,
Yes, sir. So if something were to happen with shipping and we did have to put those dates back, we still would be within the window as stated in the
that's a
stipulation.
good point, that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
sir.
Ms. Verdugo Peralta?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Was it the manufacturer who gave you the estimated time of arrival?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and is there any other company that has purchased a piece of equipment from that manufacturer that you kind of have an idea of how long that took?
The local representative has assured us that we're well within the time frame that they'll need to get it to us.
I understand what he said, but do you know for a fact if there has been any other company that was in your situation that had to wait for a piece of equipment and how long it took them?
I do not, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm still
Senator.
confused. Before you can perform a source test, the equipment must be received and in place, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But in the order, 1A, it says within 5 months of issues of the permit to construct, and you don't have the permit to construct yet.
Correct.
So therefore, you expect to receive the equipment and install and be ready for source test by the time the permit to construction is issued. That's less lead time.
If the permit to construct, as Ms. DeVary said, will be approved in the next month, we'll receive the equipment a few weeks after the permit to construct. We've gone out and ordered the equipment ahead of time to try to cut down that lead time.
Your point's well made, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Did you have any other witnesses, Mr. Kushner?
No other witnesses.
And thank you,
Chairperson
Mr.
Brezak.
Millard. Okay. I'll ask if there's any member of the public then that wishes to be heard at this time. And I see none. If we're ready to proceed, then Ms. Manwaring, you're closing. And if you could suggest what date you believe jurisdiction should go through, that would be helpful as well.
Ms. Bruzek, I'd actually like to request to go off the record for 2 minutes to confer with Mr. Kushner.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we we'll take a break, if that makes sense?
Thank you.
Why don't we do that, and then we'll come back and deliberate and have closings. So let's take a break until 10 after the hour. Okay, we'll go back on the record then a little bit early. And we'll begin with Ms. Manwaring, your closing.
Thank you so much, board members. I'd actually like to make a couple of modifications to Exhibit 1 as part of my closing. First, Senator Holden, thank you so much for drawing this to my attention. You were actually correct. I do need to change application numbers in one more place. So if I could please draw your attention to page 3, paragraph 10. We're going to modify those application numbers. So application number 582680 becomes 607651. And the second application number that is 582681 becomes 607652. And again, those were original applications that were then modified for Friars 1 and 2. They are not currently the pending permit applications that Ms. DeBari's team is processing. The other change that we'd like to make, and the parties have conferred on this, is in response to some of the questions you raised. That 5 months to install the new air pollution control system from the time the permits to construct issue was a period that was negotiated for with the very things that Mr. Millard testified to regarding uncertainties with equipment coming from across the seas. Because he has been so proactive and taken so many steps to ensure that they'll arrive sooner rather than later, the party is willing to modify that condition to tighten it a little bit. So I will read this more slowly when you're ready to write it down, but essentially it's within 3 months of the later of two things occurring. So when they have all the equipment on the hand and the district has given them the permits to construct, the later of those two events will trigger a 3-month timeline. So we think that this is going to shorten things substantially, given how proactive the facility has already been.
Do you want to read it slowly now?
Yes. Okay. So it should read, this would be a revision to condition 1A, which is found on page 4 of Exhibit 1. It should now read, respondent shall, within 3 months of a permit to construct for application number 618795, or, this is the new language,
Already exists of issuance of a permit to construct for AN 618795, correct? Or.
yep. So strike the comma, insert or. Within 3 months of all components necessary to construct the air pollution control system arriving on site, comma, whichever is later, and then the rest of the condition remains. Whichever is later, install the new air pollution control.
Okay, so respondent shall, within 3 months of issuance of a permit to construct for AN, the number, or within 3 months of all components necessary to construct the air pollution control system arriving on site, comma, whichever is later, comma. And then from there, install. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Everyone have that? Okay. Thank you. You may proceed.
As I mentioned in my opening, the district continues to advance its knowledge of emissions from food processing. VOCs from pork rinds on a conveyor belt was somewhat of a new issue, and I just want to thank the facility for its willingness to work with the district, and I want to thank Mr. Miller for his testimony today and how proactive he's been in seeing this issue. As you heard him testify, he's only been with the company a little over 2 years, and things really did start to move a little more effectively with his involvement. With that said, I'm hopeful that this board agrees that this order is appropriate to issue and will find good cause.
Clarification, Ms. Manwaring, on the, you had previously had us change the application number on page 2 So they will stay the same then, because the 607, 651 and 652 are the new applications submitted for the modification. So the existing ones stay the same as 5822 as is on page 2?
I believe the answer is yes. No.
This will be changed to the ones on the page number 4, item number 11.
Those don't change. These are correct.
Yeah, these are correct.
Okay.
These will be
No changes to the application numbers in paragraph 11 on page 4.
No, page,
The changes to application numbers have been made in 3 places. The chart on page 2, the chart on page 3, and the sentence in paragraph 10. Also on page 3. And what I've learned from today's proceeding is that I'm going to define applications instead of just relying on application numbers for my future documents. These can get a bit confusing.
And did you mention how long to retain jurisdiction? I had calculated 9 months, which had included the 5 months and an uncertainty as to the time spent with the district. So if we just leave it at that, November 15th would be 9 months, and that would now include a month for permitting and a month for protocol. Does that?
I'm absolutely comfortable with that. I always like to do December 31st just because it's a nice, clean date. But I defer to the board on this. I think either date is appropriate. And the facility understands that should something slide, they have the obligation to seek a modification.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kushner, you're closing.
Thank you. Rudolph has worked hard and will continue to work hard to ensure compliance with the district's and department's air rules. We're appreciative of the work that the department has and the manner in which the department has conducted itself. As I mentioned earlier in my remarks, it's been arm's length but collaborative. We would request that the board enter the order as modified, or as Ms. Manwaring suggested it be modified.
Thank you. Board members, anyone wish to begin deliberations? Dr. Bernstein?
Sure, I'll give it a go. It is my opinion that we have heard enough testimony that to grant good cause in this manner. It appears as if Rudolph has, in fact, done his due diligence and attempted to improve capture and collection efficiency regarding the pork rind fryers to come in compliance with the volatile organic compounds and particulate matter. They passed the source test on fryer number 3, which acted as a template on November 20th of 2019. And now we are proceeding to bring the other 2 fryers into compliance with regards to the stipulated findings that we have reviewed this morning, noting that we guesstimate an April installation on or about 4/6/20, and the source testing to commence sometime in May 13th of 20, if everything goes according to the game plan. And now we have also determined that there's an appropriate time frame that we all agree upon, and that our jurisdiction will extend to November 15th of 2020 to be able to enact all of these changes regarding the stipulated findings.
I think well said, I agree. I would say that there were issues that occurred that brought us here in the past, but since Mr. Millard has come on board, they've been very proactive, and I think it's nice to hear that even though it's questionable how the permitting will end up, that they have been proactive and they have already ordered the equipment to move this along quickly. I'm also feel good that Ms. DeBeery testified that although there has been no source tests and there are issues with capture efficiency, she believes that there is some good control while this order would be in place for VOCs and PMs. So I agree, and I don't know if you're going to make a motion, Dr. Bernstein, but if we want to consider December 31st just as a clean jurisdiction end date, as Ms. Manwaring had suggested. I don't think it matters. The dates are as the dates are in the order, and the 3 months time frame and all the others that go from there would still be the same. We would just extend the amount of time we would be able to hear it again in our jurisdiction.
I don't have any problem with that, and I would like to attempt to make a motion.
Let's see if anyone else has any deliberation, but
What I said after
Ms.
the
Verdugo Peralta and then Mr. Balagopalan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to commend Mr. Millard for being so proactive, having been in the same situation of waiting for equipment from Europe when I was working with the car manufacturers. It is a daunting experience, and you can get hung up on the smallest little thing, and it can take 2 weeks for them to say, oh, yes, I saw that. But the fact that you have ordered it ahead of time because you are aware that it does take that long, I give you a lot of credit for doing that, and I think you are an asset to the company now that you're on board and pushing this forward, as well as staff are being so involved in trying to work this out with them. I truly appreciate that, so I also find good cause. Thank you.
Yes, I think we can find good cause. Also good to know that they had tested actually for the NOx emission limits and showed compliance with the NOx limit, because that's always a more challenging one, but VOC and PM also, and that they're taking steps to improve the collection, and by also expanding the expenditure really to put a brand new control system just dedicated to for the better collection and being proactive in ordering the unit. So that's to be commended.
Senator?
I concur with the findings. They have experienced already with providing the correction in fire number 3. And they're just going to do a mirror image of 3 and put it in number 1 and 2. The time frame for delivery is well anticipated based on previously. So I think we're all on the right track on this one, and congratulate you for being so aggressive in terms of trying to fix the problem once it's been brought to your attention.
Thank you all. Dr. Bernstein, if you'd like to make a motion.
Okay, kids, hold on to your hats. In the manner of Rudolph Foods West, Inc., case number 6168-1, I move that we find good cause to grant an order of abatement as set forth in the proposed findings and decisions in Exhibit 1 with the changes. Should I enumerate the changes or just say with the changes that have been implemented into the record?
It's very helpful for the clerks who go later on. I think she's got everything, but to do it all together. Oh, you have everything. Okay, so you can just say all the changes that have been made, you incorporate, and then just tell us the date you're going to insert for a jurisdiction.
With all the changes that have been made, as the court has, as the clerk has recorded, with our jurisdiction date decided upon on December 31st of 2020.
I second the motion.
Oh, Ms. Verdugo Peralta seconds that motion. And if, just to be clear on the record, we will remove from the caption and the footer the word proposed. I assume that's okay with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Ms. Verdugo Peralta, that's okay with you? Okay. Any other discussion on that motion? That well-stated motion? Ms. Verdugo Peralta seconded. Okay, Senator, how do you vote? Oh, sorry, yeah, discussion.
That the correction of that which has been modified in terms of the application numbers.
He did. Dr. Bernstein did mention that all of the changes that have been made, he is incorporating into his motion.
It's all inclusive, okay.
Yeah, because the clerk did, Ms. Rosalinda did say that she did record it all, so he doesn't have to restate it. But thank you for that. So how do you vote, Senator?
Aye.
I vote yes. How do you vote, Mr. Balagopalan?
Yes.
Ms. Verdugo Peralta?
Aye.
Dr. Bernstein?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you for a good presentation. Any other business, board members? Seeing none, we are adjourned.